Alright, so I'm going to try and do another commentary over another speed draw video, time-lapse, whatever. This time of Rin from Katawa Shoujo, or I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't really know what compelled me to draw her at all, but, you know, felt like doing it anyway and might as well, so... At least when it comes to drawing heads, as you can see there, I feel like I'm getting much more used to the shape of the skull, the back of the skull, like behind the neck, like how the neck attaches to the skull and like the jaw and whatnot. So it makes everything look a lot like smoother and much more realistic, while still like maintaining the good cartoony shape and size. And also I haven't really drawn many characters slouching forward before. I usually just end up doing like a very like normal stature or something like that, but I felt like it'd be useful here at least to give her a slouch, because that seems more realistic. Trying to adapt a bunch of the artistic parts of her design, like her hair specifically. I feel like a lot of like the drawings of her give her like very like boring like basic shaped hair, so I felt like trying to give her this like weird like sort of like spurt out the back. I don't really know what to call it, but I also feel like I'm getting much better with legs and all like the flow of the muscles, and especially the feet as well. It's like making everything look a lot better. Trying to exaggerate the shapes of the sleeves that are tied up. The basic shape before is like very like boring. Just wanted to add more like size to them. Even though I feel like I'm good at drawing feet a lot more, I still feel like I need a lot of practice like drawing the feet from top down or a similar position. Feet are a very strange shape from above, but pretty like easy to get from the side at least. You know, one of the things I didn't really plan for here was I actually drew her legs so well that I didn't want to cover them up by the big, the long pants, just because I always draw the long pants, at least at the very end, being very like big and like wide shaped. So it would have covered up a lot of like the anatomy, which I thought was like pretty good anyway. So I just added a new layer and then put it on top of that. So hopefully YouTube doesn't demonetize me for showing too much leg. I still feel like I need to get like the realistic shape of fabric, because I feel like I always put in too many like irrelevant little folds in it, but I feel like for like cartoony purposes it looks good enough. I also drew her buttons in, even though the normal art doesn't have buttons for the shirt, but yeah, I definitely didn't keep that in later. I don't really like drawing buttons. also feel like I'm getting the perspective of the face a lot better as well, like showing the right angle of the eye that's behind the nose, making it look more like flat. I think before it made it look very like similarly shaped to the one in front, so it didn't really look very like rounded, the head. But yeah, I definitely feel like I'm getting better at that as well. Also, since anime characters, or anime styled characters at least, always have like the very like shaggy hair with like a lot of like points to them, it's always kind of hard to take the shapes down and, you know, figure out what like the good shapes are, and not like just the random details that don't really like matter that much. So yeah, I tried to I feel like Rin at least would have very shaggy hair, so I kind of kept a lot of that in, but normally I would have made it very like solid and like standardized, like a lot of my other characters. Still need to draw the toes correctly. I feel like they're way too short and way too like even with each other, but I feel like this looks better anyway, so. I usually add a lot of blemishes to the lines, like in the line art phase, not really the sketching phase. Like you can see with the little paint on the very end of the paintbrush. I added a lot of like very like random little details and little like edges to it to make it look more like realistic. I love drawing the little like edges, or like the seams of the pant legs or any kind of like clothing item. It just makes for really good like contour lines. It makes me feel like I'm doing really well with the shapes of everything. Also, when I do fan art, I usually don't eye drop exactly from the character, but it seems like for a lot of like the colors from like the official artwork, it seems like it was like pretty good enough, so I don't really have to change that much. So now for the bigger change, I've completely changed up the way I do like my main like quote unquote main like art style, where I usually like used to make it very like smooth and like semi-realistic, even though it wasn't really like actually realistic. I instead, like after I got my digital drawing pad, I started doing a lot more like sketches and like flat drawings digitally. But I always thought, like at least recently, that the flat style actually looked better than the smooth style. So I'm trying to like blend the two styles together and like primarily use like flat shading for things. But I'll definitely still try and like, as you'll see with like the pants and the different like other parts, that I still kind of like try to include at least a little bit of smooth shading to like kind of break it up a little bit. I definitely feel like this style works a lot better in general, considering like my like line art and construction style is very like cartoony, and then like putting the realistic part alongside it doesn't really like make it look that much better. But this makes it like a very good like balance between them. Trying to create that satiny sort of texture with the highlights on the pants. And I attempted to do the same thing with the tie, but it didn't work out as well, so I just kind of like left it kind of plain. I definitely feel like the hair was the hardest part to get right with the smooth shading style, but now I can pretty easily just like put like very like big like highlights across the entire thing and don't really have to like smudge it around or like make it look very like jagged to like fit with the hairstyle. I can just kind of like do whatever I want or like make it very like solid. I still have to adjust it a little bit to make it like follow the contours of the hair so it doesn't look like a very like forced like shape. I don't know how to describe it really, but it always looks a lot better if you kind of like adjust it a little bit, even if it's still pretty much just like a big line across the hair. And stealing the shade of blue from another drawing that used a shade of blue on top of a white. I definitely feel like that's another bonus of having a flat shading like this. I can just go into another drawing and steal a color that I want, even if it's like shading. I don't really have to like go into the deeper file and like undo all like the layer styles and get the right color. And also here's where I put a clipping layer on top of the shading layer to add a little bit of darker shading underneath everything, or underneath the parts where it's very like behind everything, so you can see like the differences. And even though I could have just done the paintbrush like the hair and just make a giant like line across it, I feel like the paintbrushes are always so like I have a much bigger like hair that are much like messier, so I felt like adding a little bit of sharpness and like jaggedness to the line would be a lot better. And basically practically erasing all the line art just by adding in by coloring in the lines. I actually go into Photoshop after all this and put in like a stroke like around the entire drawing. So even when I do like the outside, when I color the lines of the outside part of the drawing, it doesn't actually change that much because the outside's going to be black anyway. Yeah, and I've learned to actually sort of alter the shading color. I usually use the base shading color to do the colored outlines, but I recently realized that it looks a lot better if I actually alter it a little bit to make it like deeper. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much it. Yep, that's the drawing. I'll try and do more later. More OCs at least, more my own characters, so I can actually explain what they are.